The NBA Gambling Podcast on the Sport Gambling Podcast Network is presented by WynnBET. WynnBET is now live in Arizona, Colorado, Indiana, Louisiana, Michigan, New Jersey, New York, Tennessee, and Virginia. From boosted same-game parlays to live in-game odds, WynnBET has what you need to win. Sign up today, bet $100, and get a $100 free bet at sportsgamblingpodcast.com/WynnBET. That's sportsgamblingpodcast.com/WYNNBET. State restrictions apply. We're also brought to you by our mini helmet contest. The SGP mini helmets are now in store, and we're giving one away for free. Just go to sportsgamblingpodcast.com/helmet to enter. That's sportsgamblingpodcast.com/helmet. Welcome, everyone, to the NBA Gambling Podcast, part of the Sports Gambling Podcast Network. It is Tuesday, December 20th, currently 11:41 on the East Coast. Here to recap the action from last night in the NBA on Monday night and get into the 5-game schedule on Tuesday evening. And here to help me break it all down, first, you know him as the voice of the Tennis Gambling Podcast, the NFL Gambling Podcast, the WNBA Gambling Podcast, and of course here on the NBA Gambling Podcast, it's Scott, Studio Reichel. Scott, how's it going, my man?
Doing pretty well. Had a nice sweep yesterday. Even gave out a huge, massive prop with Sabonis, 20-plus rebounds at plus 850, and he had 16 in the first half. He slowed down in the second half. I wanted to see 30, but unfortunately, he only finished with 23. But taking opposing centers against the Hornets is basically stealing. Shout out to the Hornets, though. Nice win for them on the road. But Sabonis did me a solid, and that was my lock at 12.5. 12.5. That's just funny in itself. But I had the Timberwolves as my dog, and they ended up beating up on the Mavericks. I don't know how Dallas was favored. There was a chance Luka wasn't going to play. He did not in the end, but they're terrible on the road. And Minnesota looks a lot better with Rudy Gobert not being there. I'll just put it that way. Edwards has been very good. Naz Reid's been good as a center. But Dallas laying on the road, that can't happen. So I had a nice sweep.
Who would have thought the Timberwolves are doing better without Rudy Gobert on the floor? Who would have thought? But yeah, Sabonis absolutely crushed it yesterday. You and I were going back and forth on text message about, I think he almost had 10 in the first quarter, and I think he already cleared it by halftime.
He had 9 in the first quarter. He had 16 in the first half.
Yeah, so stress-free, probably the easiest bet all season here on the NBA pod, and he finishes at 20, I think.
He had 23 rebounds, I believe.
Yeah. So I know a lot of guys in the Discord channel also cashed with us. So glad you were able to give that out, Scott. But also joining us here on the Tuesday pod, it's Delonte Smith. What's going on, Delonte? How you feeling, my man?
Feeling pretty good. Just not an interesting slate of sort, but that's just what we get on Tuesdays. But other than that, seeing if we can make some money tonight. Like Scott, I had the Timberwolves last night. They're playing way better basketball without that paint being clogged. Naz Reid stretching the floor.
Yeah.
Other than that, man, I got the Hornets plus money. Well, not plus money, but I got them plus 10.5 last night. I thought that was a bad spot. A good spot for New Orleans. Not New Orleans. I'm thinking
for Charlotte.
Yeah, Charlotte.
Either way.
Yeah. So, man, other than that, ready to go.
Yeah, a lot of action last night. Some good basketball. We saw Luka get ejected last night and Jason Kidd. Timberwolves, like Scott said, looking a lot better without Rudy Gobert on the floor.
It's not going to be for that much longer, so get used to it.
Yeah. Anything else that kind of caught our eye last night? As far as my picks went last night, I had Donovan Mitchell to get 35 as my dog. That one didn't come home. The Cleveland Cavaliers blew out the Utah Jazz last night, 122-99, got a 23-point victory there. And then I had the Phoenix Suns as my dog. As my lock yesterday at -10. We thought that Devin Booker would play last night, but he ended up sitting. But DeAndre Ayton played last night for the Phoenix Suns, a nice return for him. But then I think, Scott, you and I discussed that LeBron would probably sit out for this game, and he did end up sitting. And then also we already know about AD. Some more AD news came down this morning. Not looking good for Lakers fans, as it was already bad for them already. But Westbrook also ended up sitting. Kept it competitive within maybe the first 6 minutes of that quarter to the Lakers, but eventually the Phoenix Suns, just too much for the Lakers to handle in that game. They get the victory 130-104 in that game.
I had a question about that game, by the way. If your team loses by roughly 30, but you get to do a too small celebration to Chris Paul in the third quarter, does that count as a moral victory or no?
Whatever helps Pat Bev sleep at night, Scott.
Okay, just
He
wondering.
he hates Chris Paul. I think
Yeah.
that he probably hates Chris Paul more than anybody hates any other human being on this earth. I have
But if
no
you
idea
really
why.
think about it, he's made so many comments about how, he's not a great player and how Chris Paul's easy to guard. It was kind of like hearing Duran talk about Sabonis like last week. And he's like, oh, this guy, he's so easy to guard. You look at the numbers and he gets torched every time he faces off against this guy. Chris Paul's owned him for like his entire career, and yet Pat Bev keeps trying to dismiss him. I still think a game 6 in the Western Conference Finals where Chris Paul basically went for 40 and they clinched the series. Chris Paul went for 28 points. I know that Chris Paul is one of my favorite players of all time. I think he's easily a top 5 point guard ever. But at this stage in his career, he's not exactly a scorer. Pat Bev, if you're going to kind of talk crap while you're down 20, can you at least not give up 28 points to a borderline fossil? Just saying. Like, if you pride yourself on being a defensive player who's like very solid on that end, you can't be getting torched by roughly 40-year-old Chris Paul. That can't happen.
He's always getting torched. His defense has always been pretty much overrated.
He's just running around out there.
That's it.
Right?
That's it.
Maybe Russell Westbrook
he's not doing
was
anything.
right.
Effective.
He's just running around out there not doing anything.
That's probably the other.
Exactly.
That's probably the other. I'd say combination of guy that hates the other guy more than Pat Bev against Chris Paul.
Yeah.
Might be Westbrook against Pat Bev. Of course, Isaiah Thomas against Jordan probably takes the cake because Isaiah still hates him and they're about 40 years removed. But still, I do think if you want to talk about like the most hated player in the mind of one player, it's either Pat Bev hating on Chris Paul or Westbrook hating on Pat Bev. It's one of the two.
That's funny.
That's
Yeah. It'd be funny if ever those three guys got on the same team. Not ever going to happen.
I think Chris Paul would retire if that
yeah,
happened.
Chris Paul would
He
probably
might.
just run away,
He might.
hide in a closet. Anything else that kind of stuck out to you guys last night? Delonte, I'll start with you as far as the games that we haven't really touched on here.
SGA ruining Dame's passing of Clyde Drexler was pretty interesting. That was a really good game. Him versus Dame was really good basketball. Like that was. I mean, I'm interested to see like what the Thunder do with in the future, like with all those picks and how those guys are playing together right now. They don't even have Chet yet. And that's just really intriguing to me. The Spurs they start with their I guess they play 2 good games like every 2 weeks, and then they go back and lose 6 or 7. Devin Vassell, I think that's going to be a good pickup if they're looking to move him. I'm not sure if they are, but if they do look to, tank fully, I think that'll be a good piece for somebody to get. Other than that, I mean, Giannis and Zion was pretty good last night. But I was really glued to that OKC Portland game. I'd love to hear you guys' thoughts on that if you guys had turned into it.
Yeah, when SGA got ruled in, this was way after the pod we recorded yesterday. I had really liked the over when SGA got ruled in, and I played it, and that one, cashed fairly easy, especially with the amount of points that they put up in that third quarter last night, 69 points. The game ended up 121-123. But, Shea is the unfortunate part is that he's in a market where nobody really cares about it. Nobody is really watching unless you're a Oklahoma City Thunder fan, right? And we're not, and true basketball fans are going to tune in to watch him play because he's just so good. And I think, Delonte, you're right. It's going to be interesting to see what OKC does with SGA, with all the picks that they do have, with Chet hopefully coming back next year. And if they do have another, top 3, top 5 pick next year.
They should have about 4 or 5 top 20 picks. With that haul that they brought in.
Yeah, so it'll be interesting to see. I think that if they do end up with, a top 3 pick where their record ends up, I think this might be the year where they kind of have to go all in and trade some of those picks to get that number 1 pick or number 2 pick if they prefer, whether it's Victor Wembanyama or whether it's Scoot Henderson or some of these guys that are going to be coming out of the college ranks. But yeah, OKC, they have some pieces there. It's just about now putting it all together. And I think it starts with Shea. And again, if they want to keep him around for the future or not. But Scott, I know you were tweeting a lot about SGA last night. What were your thoughts about him?
Well, I think he's basically untradeable, which is, I think, warranted at this point. Now, OKC, we can talk about potentially competing for a top a 3 pick or a top 2 pick or whatever you want to call it. Truth is, I think they're too good right now. And it sounds crazy because they're 5 games under. But in reality, if you look around the league and you're assuming this upcoming, trade deadline period, teams are going to be punting. I'm assuming the Wizards are about to trade half their team. You're looking at the Spurs, who are obviously terrible. Houston's not very good either. You can go down the league. Detroit, I didn't even mention, they've been better lately, but the record stinks and Cade's out for the year.
Yeah.
OKC's not going to be bad enough to finish with a top 3 record if Shea's going to play 60-plus games. It's just not going to happen. So
they're going to shut them down like they always do.
They could shut them down like normal, or you could just say OKC's got so many picks, you hope they can package a couple of them and give a Godfather offer. The problem is, I don't think whoever gets the number 1 pick would be willing to even trade the number 1 pick for a Godfather offer, because Wembanyama is automatic hype to your team that might not be warranted. I mean, you're looking at the worst landing spot imaginable. Let's say San Antonio, because nobody cares about San Antonio. They haven't for the last 5-10 years. But if they suddenly get Wembanyama, suddenly your attendance might dramatically grow. Suddenly you might become a more attractive free agent destination. So I think Wembanyama is basically, the number 1 pick is basically an untradeable commodity because of what the future holds with Wemby and how the sky is the ceiling is really just, the sky at that point. Like, I feel like you have to kind of just take Wembanyama, see what happens, and you get to capitalize either for jersey sales, attendance, or whatever else you want to look at it for the hype. And I feel like for that reason, OKC might be, I can't say screwed because they're better than anticipated, but you get my point. I don't think they're in the serious running for Wembanyama unless one of the other picks they have turns out to be a top 3 pick, or if they get really lucky in the lottery and they win it with like 8% chance to win or whatever the number is going to be. But based on OKC right now, if Shea plays like 60 games, they're not finishing with a bottom 4 record in the league. That's just not going to happen. There's too many tanking teams around them.
Yeah. How do you think I'm sorry.
No, go ahead, Delonte.
I just wondering, like, I wonder how Shea feels about just being shut down for basically an entire second half of the season, not being able to play competitive or even basketball, period. I wonder how that makes him feel. And he's fairly young. What is he, like 27, 28 years old?
He's got to be younger. No, he's got to be younger than that.
Really?
He was in Kentucky for, I think, 1 year. So I'm assuming he's around 24.
Yeah. Okay. So it was 24, 25.
He's 24.
Yeah. So like, and he's not even playing for this. If this happens this year, this would be the second year that he'd be shut down at the end of the season, I think.
It would. I think it might be the 3rd year, honestly. But the first year he might have been injured, so I'm not sure. Second year was clearly just half fabricated. They could have brought him back, but why bother? But it's interesting because on one hand, you're a competitor and you've been playing basketball your entire life, and you want to be out there, especially on the highest level when you've made it this far. On the other hand, you're looking at OKC's long-term plan, and you could tell Shea, we just gave you a bunch of money, or we're going to give you a bunch of money. He signed an extension, right?
Yes, he did.
Yeah, that's what I thought. So he's there for the long haul. They gave him a bunch of money, and I'm sure the dollar bills can be used as tissues. So I think he'll manage either way, but I do think it's annoying when you're just an absolute, unit out there. They can't stop you. You're in line for an award to win Most Improved. I still don't know if that's the definition of Most Improved, but either way, the point is he's favored to win an award, and yet the team is just going to say, you know what, you're so good, you're hurting our future, so we have to bench you. Like, it's a really weird kind of paradox there. I don't think it's going to happen this year. I think that he's going to play at least 50 or 60. Once again, I don't think that any of Adam Silver's threats against tanking are going to do anything. You can argue that if they sit Shea for 20-something games, maybe they'll get fined $1 million or $2 million. The problem is the franchise is probably worth 2-point-something billion, so nobody really cares about $1 million fine. But I don't know what else you're supposed to do. But I think to answer your question about OKC and with Wemby, I think Shea makes them too good to seriously be in the sweepstakes for a number 1 pick unless they get lucky in the lottery.
Yeah, they could. I guess if they sit him, they can get more from, I guess, see the Jalen Williams experiment. I like the Santa Clara Jalen Williams. I like him a lot. Like, I feel like he's versatile. He can do a lot of things, but I feel like they have they got like Lou Dort in the way. I know they just paid him. I'm not really a fan.
I think Dort's fine. I just think that people overrate him because of how much usage he had the 1 year they were tanking, and
Right.
Dort became the
Yeah,
only
that's what I
shooter on
mean.
the
Yeah,
team.
yeah.
But
Like so
offensively,
it
he's
was
not
just
great. Defensively,
yeah,
he's very good, obviously.
yeah. It just, but I like Jalen Williams. So it'll be interesting to see like if they try to get those guys on the floor and then maybe try to move a couple of them, or I don't know. I mean, I just feel like they have a lot going on and a lot of decisions pretty much gonna have to be made between now and the draft this year.
Whatever pick you end up getting, if it's not Wemby, just draft a center, please.
Yeah.
Like just please.
No,
Like
don't draft a center. We could keep crashing on our rebounding.
I know,
props.
but Robinson Earl's injured, and now you're throwing out Pokashevsky. You really don't. You haven't had a center for 3 years. Like,
Yeah.
come on, you got to pick somebody.
Yeah, well, they can get Aiden. No, I'm saying Aiden Hutchinson. They can get the guy from
Aiden's a
Michigan.
possibility if they want to trade some of the picks, but
Yeah, from Michigan. I mean, it's
you
a
want
decent amount of
Hunter Dickinson.
Hunter Dickinson. Yeah.
Yeah.
It could be. It's a lot of big men that are coming out this year. Just I'm not sure how high they will go.
Take Timmy with a 2nd round pick.
I think Timmy's gonna be back at Gonzaga, but
For the 12th year.
yeah.
I think he has another year, doesn't he?
Yeah, he does.
Oh,
That's what I
golly.
thought.
Yeah, he does. He does.
All right, guys. Anything else from last night before we get into the games for tonight?
Nope. Good.
No, I think the only other takeaway I would have would probably be, well, we already talked briefly about the Bucks game, but shout out to Valanciunas, who we thought would play well. We didn't exactly expect 38 points, but shout out to Valanciunas. It's Orlando for me. I thought they potentially got robbed yesterday. I wasn't sure if that shooting foul on Murray was actually a shooting foul or not, but ended up resulting in the loss. But Orlando was down double digits with about 5 minutes to go or so, and they came back and took a lead. And I feel like this Orlando team continues to be disrespected. I thought it was embarrassing by the odds makers that they made Atlanta a 7.5-point favorite. I don't care who is coming back. I'm not laying 7.5 with Atlanta. And Orlando's a team that even on the road, their overall record's not great, but you're looking at how hard they play and how competitive they are game in, game out for this past 2-week stretch. They're a very talented team. I don't think that they're amazing by any means, but you're looking at them for value against the spread.
Yep.
I'm impressed by this team. I think this team's not that bad.
What are the odds of Banchero making 3rd team All-NBA? What do you think?
3rd team, I think, is a bit of a stretch. I'm trying to think. First of all, what position will we put him at? He'd be one of the forwards, I'm assuming?
Yeah, he would have
to be one of the forwards. So, I mean, you're going to be competing with Tatum. You're going to be competing with potentially LeBron if you want to make that argument for the legacy angle. I don't think it's going to be LeBron, but I'm saying, I mean, you still have Jimmy Butler's missed a bunch of games, but you're going through the actual forwards in the league. There's a lot of depth. I don't think he'd be good enough to make an All-NBA team in his rookie season. I think he would be there probably in year 2, year 3. He's a shoo-in to win Rookie of the Year if he stays healthy. I think that's the consolation prize. He'll be, of course, all rookie first team. All-NBA.
Yeah, I was just looking at.
I was going to say, I think he's had a good year. I just think there's a little bit too much depth at that position for him to actually win it. You can give it to Sabonis. Sabonis could be an All-NBA first. All-NBA team guy.
Ultimately, I think just the team's failure to win games is going to give him it. Like if they were winning games, maybe he'd have a somewhat of an outside chance. But
it's tricky because you can say Shea's a first team guy and his team's 5 games under. Luke is probably a first team guy and his team's roughly around 500. But
yeah, that's true.
I just think since there's no center position and since it's only by forward, basically, that hurts him because he's competing with Embiid and Jokic and all these other centers, even like Bam Adebayo, if you want to like stretch it out a little bit. I don't think he's an All-NBA guy this year. I think he will be in the future.
Fair enough.
But he'll win Rookie of the Year. That's a no-brainer.
Yeah. He's like what, up to minus 500 now for Rookie of the Year?
Should be more. I mean,
it should be like 50,000.
The only way he doesn't get it is if he gets hurt.
Yeah.
But I mean, that's basically it.
Yeah. All right. Before we get into the Tuesday night schedule here, guys, let me tell you guys on where you can get down on the bets that we will be giving out, and that's going to be over at WynnBET. WynnBET is the official online sportsbook of the Sports Gambling Podcast Network. WynnBET is active in a bunch of states, and there are a ton of ways to win, including live betting and same-game parlays. Plus, for the hashtag DGens only, try your luck at WynnBET's Parlay Wheel. Great promos, odds, and payouts are happening right now at WynnBET. Ready to play? Sign up today to receive a special offer. Bet 100, win 100. Limited state availability. There's so much to choose from. All you have to do is head over to sportsgamblingpodcast.com/WynnBET. So they know that we sent you. That's sportsgamblingpodcast.com/WYNNBET to claim your free bet today. Offer subject to change. Terms and conditions at winbet.com. Must be 21 years or older and present in the state where playthrough WinBet is available. If you or someone you know has a gambling problem, call 1-800-522-4700. And don't forget to enter the SGP mini helmet contest. Just go to sportsgamblingpodcast.com/helmet to enter. That's sportsgamblingpodcast.com/helmet. All right, gentlemen, let's get into this Tuesday schedule in the NBA. Let's lead it off here with the first game of the night. That's going to be the Utah Jazz headed to the Motor City to take on the Detroit Pistons. This line opened up in favor of the Utah Jazz, a -3.5. That number has been bet down to -2.5. Total opened up at 233. That number has been bet down to 229.5. Seeing some 230s out there as well. Checking the injury report for both of these teams. Utah did play yesterday in Cleveland, so they do have that extra time to submit that injury report. For the Detroit Pistons, we know about Cade Cunningham missing the rest of the season, and Isaiah Livers is going to be missing the next couple weeks with a right shoulder strain. Talked about it last night. Utah did get dubbed in Cleveland, 122-99 behind Darius Garland and Donovan Mitchell in that game. And looking at the ATS numbers for both of these teams, Utah on back-to-back so far this season, they're 5-3 against the spread in those games, 5-3 towards the under on the road so far this year, 9-8 overall against the spread. They are 0-2 as a road favorite. Detroit, on the other hand, 7-7-1 at home this season, 6-7-1 as home underdogs this season as well. They are 9-4-1 to the over as home underdogs this year. But Delonte, let me start with you on this game. The Detroit Pistons welcoming the Utah Jazz to town in a game where maybe Bogdanovich has some revenge on his mind here tonight.
Yep, that's probably gonna be one of my plays actually. Last matchup, it was back in maybe like a month ago. I think it was maybe a month ago. Utah played with no Conley or Rudy Gay. Malik Beasley had a crazy night, 29, 11, and 5. Clarkson had 24. Bogdanovich, he actually had he didn't play as well. He still had 20. Him and Knox led the way with 20. Total went over 241. It was 241 points scored in that game. The Pistons covered it. I think they won outright as 11.5 point underdogs.
Yep.
So yeah, the Pistons have been playing well. 5-4-1 last 10 ATS. But I think this is a good spot for Utah. Personally, I mean, I know they're coming off the back-to-back, but they have a lot of depth, and I think they'll be able to pretty much run the floor and be able to get what they want in transition. Detroit is not that good in transition. Detroit has allowed 120 points, 120 plus points in the last 4 games.
Mm-hmm.
So that's going to be bad news whenever you're facing a Utah team who likes to run, second in offensive rating. They also shoot the 3 well, 9th in 3-point percentage. Matchup wise, I think I like Utah a lot better than Detroit. Although Detroit has been playing, a lot better basketball. It's just that I don't think they have the horses other than Bogdanovich to be able to withstand some of the stuff that Utah is going to do in transition and as well as the half court.
Yeah, I was looking at this game, and I think the couple things that did stand out to me was Detroit defensive rating, and at home over the last 5 games, they are number 28 out of 30 teams as far as defensive rating at 123.7. And for whatever reason, they play better defense on the road, 114.3 over the last 5 games. So, and like you mentioned, this team just has not been very good defensively. Have the Detroit Pistons. Utah, on the other hand, also defensively, they've been struggling a little bit as well. At home this season, Utah is a top 10 over the last 5 games as far as defensive rating, but on the road so far this year, or at least over the last 5 games, Utah is number 25 out of 30 teams as far as
I'll give them a
rating.
little bit of leeway, though, because you're looking at their schedule. They played Cleveland, Milwaukee, New Orleans twice, and Denver. I mean, that's not exactly an easy schedule there, especially defensively, when you're basically against an MVP candidate or close to it every night. So they're not a good defensive team, Utah. I like the over in this game. We saw in the first meeting it got into the 240s. Utah on the road laying points, I know, is a serious concern because they've not been good as a favorite so far this season. However, I know they're on a back-to-back. I do like Utah in the spot. It's a revenge angle for what happened earlier this season when they lost. They also got embarrassed last night, so I'm assuming the coaching staff probably chewed out the players a bit, and I'm hoping that they show up motivated. But as you said, Detroit can't guard anybody.
Yeah.
And I think if you're going to expect points, I'll take the team that's better offensively with more scoring depth.
Yep.
Markkanen over. I think Markkanen has a very good game. You're looking at how the Pistons have really defended recently, and they haven't. Durant went for basically 40. I think him and Kyrie combined for 81 points, I think.
Yes.
Yeah, sounds about right.
So they're not guarding any superstars, and Lauri's been really good. Clarkson might go for 30 tonight. He's been great lately.
He's
I'm
definitely
going to go
shoot
Utah.
enough.
Yeah, I'm going to go Utah. They got embarrassed against Cleveland. It happens. Cleveland's a great home team. But I feel like it's a good spot for them to get revenge. Give me Utah. I respect the fact Detroit's been more competitive. They're still not a good team at all. Utah's got more talent. And if Olynyk's out, you have rim protection with Kessler. So I'll go with Utah on the over.
Yeah, Utah, actually, both of these teams are not very good at defending the paint. 28th are the Detroit Pistons, and Utah is dead last as far as defending the paint. But yeah, I agree with Scott about what you said there, that I think offensively it's just going to be too much for Detroit to handle and how bad this defense has been. I like the over in this game, and I also do like the Jazz in this game as well. Probably look at a Jazz team total to go over in this game. I think they flex their muscles a little bit in this game here tonight. Player props, we're looking at, Scott. I know you already mentioned Bogdanovich. Jordan Clarkson was also mentioned. Any other guys we're looking at in this game? Lauri Markkanen, I know we talked about yesterday as well.
Well, I got at least pointed out, I'm looking at Duren rebounds for Detroit. He's been a really good rebounder since he became the starter. To look at his numbers over the last couple of games, he's played at least 30 minutes in each of the last. He's played at least 29 minutes in each of the last 3 games. He's had 11 plus rebounds in each of them. To go through the rebounding numbers over the last 6, 11, 14, 19, 13, 12, 13. Guy's a rebounding machine. I'll take his over in rebounds. Maybe double-double. I will acknowledge his offensive game is still very raw, but the rebounds I like. I'll take the over for Duren rebounds.
Yep, I like that as well. Utah, as far as rebounding, they're number 23. Opponent rebounding, I should say, 23 out of 30 teams this season. So
I'm just trying to see what the number is for the rebounds.
I have a 10.5.
Doesn't that feel a little short? I mean, he's kind of been walking into a much larger number for the last week and change, but I'm trying to see what double-double is. I know I just mentioned how his points aren't great, but double-double's plus 235.
Yeah, he'll catch a few lobs.
They're probably thinking he doesn't score the points,
free throw line a bit, but I'm kind of curious. But I feel like for a guy who's been walking into 10 plus rebounds, if you're going to get plus 230 and change for double-double, that might be worth a bit of a flyer.
Yeah. I wouldn't be opposed to that.
Delonte, any player props you like in this game?
I mean, we talked about Bogdanovich. I didn't see any Malik Beasley props when I was looking, but I'll be looking at his threes. He's had 4+ in 6 of the last 7. He had a bad night last night. Shot 1 of 10 from the field, 1 of 9 from 3. A couple things to piggyback off you guys. I know you said you like the team total. I like that as well. Both half court and full court, basically transition. Utah is top 5 in points per possession in the half court and in transition. And in both of those categories, Detroit is 29th. The 29th in points per possession allowed in the half court, and 29th in points allowed per 100 possessions in transition. So I think Utah, no matter if they want to get it in the half court or get it in transition, I think they'll be able to do whatever they want on this Detroit defense, as we highlighted. And as far as Lauri, I was looking at his under. I was looking at him under simply because I think Detroit has some physical bodies like Duren, Stewart, and a couple of those guys. I want to see how he plays with the physicality between those guys. Not saying that they can guard him on the perimeter, but I'm just interested to see how he does against some physicality and more bodies being thrown at him, because they're going to throw 2-3 guys at him. Yeah. So I don't disagree with the over, but I was looking at the under. I probably won't play it, but that's something I was monitoring. So I want to see how it plays out whenever this game starts out.
All right, let's get over to the next game of the night. It's going to be the first game on on TNT here tonight. That's going to be the Golden State Warriors headed to Madison Square Garden to take on the New York Knicks. It's going to be a 7:30 Eastern start in this game. Looking at the opening lines for this game, the Golden State Warriors are a 5-point underdog in this game. The New York Knicks open up as a 4.5-point home favorite. That number has been bet up to -5 now. Total open up at 225. Money has come in on the under. That number is now down to 221.5. Still see some 222s out there as well. Looking at the injury report for both of these teams, for the Golden State Warriors, we know Steph Curry is going to be out. Dante DiVincenzo is doubtful for tonight. Jonathan Kuminga and Klay Thompson are both probable, and Andrew Wiggins has been officially ruled out for the next couple games. For the New York Knicks, pretty clean injury report. Only significant name on there is Obi Toppin, who's dealing with a head injury, I believe. So he will be out for this game against the Golden State Warriors. Scott, let me start with you on this game. The New York Knicks back at home, hosting the Golden State Warriors, who are a 5-point underdog in this game, are the Warriors.
I feel like this line is short, but I'm kind of wondering why it's so short. The Knicks have won 7 straight. They have the longest winning streak in the league. The Warriors won 1 road game against Toronto recently, and we roasted Toronto in the past. They lost again yesterday to Philly. Toronto's fallen off a cliff. So I'm not sure if that win actually means much, but Golden State's still one of the worst road teams in the league. They're missing Steph, and the Knicks have played really good basketball. So I'm going to lean to the Knicks. I can't tell how popular or how square that side's going to be. I'm assuming pretty square because Steph's not there, but Golden State still has a reputation. But I'm assuming most people will be on the Knicks. I like the Knicks here. I just feel like they're the much better team right now. Golden State, not very good, and DiVincenzo's been one of their better glue guys, and they don't play much defense to begin with. So I'm kind of concerned about the defense for Golden State. I also like the under, though. I'm going to back the line moves here. Golden State offensively should look a lot worse, especially with how the Knicks have played defensively. Yeah. And the Knicks still don't like to run that fast in terms of pace. So I expect to see a slower pace game, a bit uglier on both sides of the ball. I have a couple player props I like, which I'll get into in a second, but I do lean to the Knicks and the under.
Yeah, the Knicks, I believe, are the best defensive rated team at home this season, 97.1.
But they're only like 7-7 at home. So yeah, that's the trade-off, I guess.
Yeah, let me make sure I got that right.
They don't have much of a – I mean, I'm sure Real pointed it out. Like everybody – that Madison Square Garden is – I mean, it's a Knicks – it's a good home court, but like it's kind of negated by players wanting to come in and just go insane against, in the Garden. So it's kind of a wash between home court and players getting up to be in Madison Square Garden.
Yeah, and I see the comment section mentioning Poole to go for 25.5 to go over for 30 plus. You got to assume there's going to be some baddies courtside, right, at MSG?
Oh yeah,
I seen Poole at 27.5. I like him under actually.
Okay. It's going to be inflated because he had 43.
Yeah. That's why. That's exactly why I took it. Because
So I'm sorry. Knicks on the full season at home, they are number 22, but they've been really good over the last 15 games at home, where they catapult all the way up to number 7 as far as defensive rating. So definitely want to keep that in mind. I do like the under in this game as well. The Knicks are rolling right now. Scott mentioned it. They've won 7 in a row. They're playing great basketball.
It's the longest winning streak.
Yeah, and it seems like that Thibodeau has probably figured out the rotations that he was kind of playing with early in the season. I don't know if it's really been that Quentin Grimes has been, in that. I believe he's been in that starting lineup, and IQ has been playing better as well. Julius Randle has been doing better as well, except for at the end of the game. But
Mitchell Robinson actually being healthy has definitely helped out the rim protection.
Especially, 100%. So I like the Knicks and the under. I'm right there with Scott in this game as well. Delonte, what do you got for this game as far as side and total?
Yeah, I love the Knicks. I mean, we all know Golden State's woes on the road, 4-13, ATS on the road. This is their 5th straight road game. In that rodeo, they're 1-4 straight up and ATS. Other than Poole, with Wiggins being out and Kuminga is questionable, right?
Kuminga is probable.
Yeah.
Probable. Yeah, so
he only played 5 minutes last game, so I'm not sure how healthy he actually is, but he should be in uniform for this game.
Right. So, but Klay's good to go.
Yeah.
So I would look at Klay over rather than Poole, simply because Poole's going to have to be more of an initiator of the offense. And I've seen somebody bring up his turnovers in the chat. I like that as well because he's going to have the ball trying to facilitate more because, I mean, we all know Klay is not a facilitator by any means. But I think that Klay will pretty much be able to post up those smaller guards like quickly. To a lesser extent, Brunson will be on him. But the Knicks, I mean, they're just rolling right now. They're returning home from a 2-game road trip. Well, really 3, but they play the Bulls twice, so I guess you can grade it how you want it. But they're allowing under 110 points in 4 of the last 5 games, so that bodes well for you guys under. The last matchup went under. It only had 212 total points, and Brunson didn't play well at all. So I look for him to bounce back. The Knicks had 5 in double figures in that last matchup as well. Like the Knicks, man, you never want to get too high on the Knicks because they always let you down. I got a lot of Knicks fans, friends as Knicks fans, and I was, poking around. I'm like, hey man, the Knicks might be, serious. They're playing good defense. They're 10th in net rating, 9th in points allowed per 100 possessions, top 10 in effective field goal percentage and 3-point percentage allowed. And they kind of don't want to hear it. Just trying to stay under the radar, but I like what New York is doing. I don't like what Golden State is doing, and I think that bodes well for a good spot for the Knicks to get a comfortable win, 7-8 point win.
Yeah, I think that number one, going back to the Jordan Poole turnovers, it is listed at 3.5 for tonight, and he has had at least four turnovers exactly in 4 straight games. And now you're going up against one of the better defensive teams. At least, they've improved over the last 15 games or 10 to 15 games. I think they can give fits to Jordan Poole here tonight. So I do love that call for the Jordan Poole turnovers. Anything else for this game, Scott? You have anything else?
Yeah, a couple of player props.
Yeah, go ahead.
I know Delonte just mentioned he kind of likes Brunson to bounce back. I actually like the under on his points. It's at 24.5. I think the number is too high. If you go through Brunson's last 10 games, he's scored less than 24 points in 8 of those 10. And if you discount the overtime game against Chicago, he only scored 23 in regulation of that game. Yeah. So he's actually gone under in regulation in 9 of the last 10. And if you want to go for some fun trends here with Brunson has played 14 career regular season games against the Warriors. He's never gone to 20. Never happened. And if you want to include the playoffs last year, he got 31 once. He has scored less than 21 points in 18 of his 19 career games against Golden State. Now, I am aware his role on Dallas was a lot smaller than his role on the Knicks because Luka took a bunch of shots, and we already know how that worked out. But the point is, Golden State historically has been very good at guarding Brunson. Earlier this season, he went 2 for 13 in his first game with the Knicks against Golden State. But if you're going to go under 21 in 18 of 19 career games and your number's 24.5, as good as Brunson's been, he's still 3rd on the team in shot attempts behind Randall and Barrett. So he kind of needs to have an extremely efficient game to go over. Yeah. I think this number's just too high. I think Brunson could have a good game, but he's also a good facilitator. I think he could potentially go for a sneaky 8 assists in this game. But 24.5 sounds way too high for the 3rd leading shot attempter on a team that struggled historically against this particular matchup. I kind of like Brunson over. I just think 24.5 is too high of a number. Under. Sorry, yeah. Okay. I think he'll get to like 21 or 22, but 24.5 is just too high to me.
Yeah, he could still have a good game and go 18, 8-4, or 20, 25-5. Like that's what I would consider. I thought it was too high as well because I was looking to take it over, thinking it would be maybe 19.5,
20. Yeah, that's what I thought. I saw 24.5. Yeah, and I'm like, what are you out of your mind? I can't take that.
And then they got Barrett lined at 22.5. So I mean, one of those guys. I mean, I think Barrett is likely to go over it simply because of the absence of Wiggins and the. I don't know how Kuminga is going to be used, but I think Barrett is more in line to go over it than Brunson is. Brunson is a sneaky double tonight because he'll be facilitating a little bit more, getting those guys involved. We know the Warriors, they can't defend. They don't turn people over. The 29th in turnover percentage. So I might look for double from Brunson. I think it's maybe like plus 400, 420 when I look.
It might be higher than that. I got to actually check that.
Let me
But
see.
that's kind of what I was thinking. I just see 8 assists in my mind, so maybe something along those lines.
Yeah.
But if you're looking at his assist number, it is currently at 6.5 at plus 115.
Yeah.
So for him, double.
Plus 650.
Oh
Plus
man, I'm way
650.
off. Okay,
I mean,
yeah.
I thought it would be pretty high.
It's worth a
but-
stab. Yeah. What I do like about Brunson is his threes made 1.5 threes, or you just get it to 2, and you probably can get better odds. I think it was minus 125 over 1.5 threes made. He's made 2+ in the last 3. He'll definitely get a lot of wide open looks with this Golden State defense. So I would look at that, and also look at Randall points, rebounds, and assists. It was at 38.5 the last I looked. Is that what you guys got? 38.5.
Let me
Yeah,
see.
that's what I see.
Yeah, this was this morning, so I just wanted to make sure they're getting the right number. Yeah, he's hit it 4 of the last 5. He's also had a double-double in the last 3 games. They opened his double-double up at small plus money, plus 105. I think now it's down to maybe like minus 103. But I think Randall does it all in this game, especially with Draymond probably not guarding him as much. I think he should be able to dominate in the paint. He should have, another double-double with, 4 or 5 assists to that. So I think he can sky over that 38.5.
All right. All right, let's go over to the next game of the night. That's going to be the Chicago Bulls headed down to South Beach to take on the Miami Heat. It's going to be another 7:30 Eastern start in this game. This line opened up in favor of the Miami Heat at minus 5.5. Money has actually come in on the Chicago Bulls in this game. That number is now down to minus 4.5. Currently over on WinBet. Total opened up at 224. That number has now been bet down to 223 in this game. Looking at the injury report for both of these teams to start here with the Chicago Bulls. Only significant name I see is Javonte Green is questionable here tonight with the right knee soreness. For the Miami Heat, Jimmy Butler is probable here tonight. And then also Dwayne Dedmon is probable. And then 3 questionable tags. Udonis Haslam, Kyle Lowry, and Caleb Martin are all questionable here for the Miami Heat here tonight. And Gabe Vincent is going to be out for this game here as well. Chicago in their last game gave up 150 points to the Minnesota Timberwolves. They now go into South Beach against the Miami Heat, who have been a team that has absolutely struggled against the spread on their home floor. 10-19-2 overall against the spread, but they are just 3-11-1 against the spread at home. They are 3-10-1 against the spread as a home favorite. I've been trending towards the over in their home games where they are 10-5 and 10-5 at home, and then 10-4 to the over as well as home favorites. Scott, let me start with you on this game. Chicago going down to South Beach to take on the Miami Heat. What are you thinking about this game?
I know the Heat are terrible against the spread at home, but I'm going to take the Heat. I want nothing to do with Chicago right now. Chicago won the first meeting of the season. I get all that, but this team is completely just punting at this point. You had a very competitive game against the Knicks. You lost in overtime. You have an immediate rematch at home. You're hoping the team comes out motivated. They get blown out of their own building. It wasn't even close.
I was on that game.
It was rough. I was on the under in that game, which worked out well because the Bulls forgot to play basketball. But you're looking at the Bulls recently, then you figure, all right, you lost your 2-game set there at home against the Knicks. So let's see how we do on the road, traveling slightly to Minnesota, and you proceeded to give up 150 points. Bulls
no
are
cat,
4-11.
no Gobert.
Yeah, with a no-go bear. Well, that actually helps the 150. But yes, they were awful in that game. They've lost 4 straight. They are 4-11 on the road. They're 11-18 straight up. I said they should blow up the team. I've said that publicly for at least a month at this point. Miami might be a bit shorthanded with potentially no Lowry, but Jimmy Butler should be playing. And you're looking at Hero, who is still going to be in the lineup. Adebayo still going to be in the lineup. I'm going to go with Miami. I think this line's too short. I want nothing to do with Chicago right now. Miami has been awful against the spread and all that stuff, but they've also been just kind of playing musical chairs with the injury lineup every game. Yeah. And now Jimmy Butler's actually playing, which helps. But I feel like the Bulls have either tuned out the head coach or they don't care. But the fact is they don't give quality effort. And Miami, despite the struggles, you can assume will have much better effort, especially after losing the first game to Chicago this season. I think Miami might smack them. But I want nothing to do with Chicago right now. It's Miami or pass.
Yep. Delonte, what do you got?
Yeah, I'm with you, Scott. I'm looking to fade both of these teams, honestly,
Yeah.
because I think some people have Miami's power rating a little bit higher simply because of priors and not off of this season's results.
Right now, I want to fade Chicago more than Miami, so I
Yeah,
guess
absolutely.
Miami's the lesser of two evils. I'll take
Yeah,
Miami.
yeah, absolutely. Both of you guys ran down the ATS numbers for both teams. Like the only good thing that's coming out of Chicago is DeRozan's playing. DeRozan's still playing at a higher level.
Mhm.
Zach LaVine's fell off a little of a cliff. Lonzo not being there actually hurts them even more because they don't have a lot of ball handling. Patrick Williams has been playing a lot better, but I mean, a lot better to him is maybe from scoring 6 or 7 points to 9 to 10. But he's very good defensively, which is what they need from him. But in this matchup, I would look at Chicago team total under. No matter what or who's in the lineup for Miami, they have been pretty consistent in playing defense. They are top 10 in points allowed per 100 possessions. They're turning people over, second in turnover position. I mean turnover percentage. They defend the three well. The only thing they don't do well, which we'll get into a player props in a second, but that's why I like DeRozan over. They don't defend the mid range very well, which is very odd. Now, analytically, that's not the right shot, quote unquote, but they don't defend it well. They are 23rd in long mid range defense, while the Bulls rank top 5 in long mid range percentage, and we all know that's a product of DeRozan being able to get whatever he wants from that free throw line extended. They also Miami's also 30th in corner 3-point percentage allowed, so that could open up some Patrick Williams shots. I'll look at props in this game. I really don't want anything to do with either of these teams. I would lean to Miami simply because they're the better defensive team. Chicago doesn't have ball handlers, and Miami will be able to turn them over and get out in transition. And Miami doesn't look to run, but I'm pretty sure they'll be out in transition with some of these turnovers from Caruso and Ayo DeSumo and Kobe White in this game. So I would look at Chicago team total under, and if I had to play the side, I would go with Miami.
I think I'm just leaning Miami because I just think they have more pride. I feels like Chicago is really the last two games especially. I don't know how much longer the coach is going to last, but it really seems like they're showing early signs of a team that is really just going through the motions.
Mm-hmm.
And Miami, with Spoelstra and company, they've not had a great start to the season. We're all aware of that. But at least they have some type of identity, and they have a coach that we know is still an elite coach in the NBA.
Mm-hmm.
At least at some point, we're expecting Miami to figure it out, kind of. Maybe it's benefit of the doubt, but at least we know that they have a lot of warriors on that team that could kind of, play better when they need to. I don't know if Chicago has that. DeRozan's really good. Levine's had the leg injuries. He's been horrible this year. And Vucevic has been a terrible trade. And I think Adebayo is a lot better than Vucevic. So I think Miami matches up decently against them. And Chicago, Munaf, am I overreacting, or does it really seem like it might be approaching DEFCON 1? Because Chicago's really showing signs that they just don't even care at this point.
I think we talked about this yesterday as well. I really do think that DeMar DeRozan gets traded by the trade deadline.
They should trade everybody at this point.
Yeah. I know they just paid Zach LaVine over the summer. Maybe that would be a contract difficult to trade, but I think DeMar DeRozan is a guy that can give a team that's in contention or a team that's looking for an additional piece to put them over the top to be a championship contender. I think that's the type of player DeMar DeRozan is. I think that if they didn't have this guy last year, I personally think that he was playing at an MVP level in that first half of the season when Zach LaVine was dealing with injuries. He's a great, like Delonte said, he's a great mid-range guy. He can get to the basket. He can get to the free throw line. And I think that there's teams out there that can use the services. So we talked about this a lot yesterday, Scott, and they had a vision for this team. It just hasn't worked out yet. I don't know if it's, player personnel or, guys not playing well together.
I know you're being generous. It hasn't worked out yet. It just hasn't worked.
Yeah, it hasn't.
It's not going to work.
Sure.
It's over.
And I think I saw a post-game interview yesterday, or was it yesterday the prior night, with Goran Dragic saying that teams or players on this team are not sacrificing for the team. I mean, there's a lot of selfish guys, and I don't know if he was pointing that to Zach LaVine or maybe somebody else, but
it sounds like LaVine.
Yeah. So, yeah, I think it may be time to blow up this team as well. So I agree with Scott. I agree with you, Delonte. I don't want anything to do with the Chicago Bulls right now. I'm not going to be betting this game. I make me pick a side here. I would go with the Miami Heat here in this game as well. Player props, Delonte. What are we looking at? If you have any.
Like DeRozan, 25.5 points.
Okay.
Pointed out the mid-range discrepancy for Miami's defense and Chicago offensively. Jimmy Butler is likely to be matched up going back and forth between him and Levine. But either way, I think that DeRozan will be able to get to the line. He's good at drawing fouls from that free throw line. It's just that the only thing that worries me is that he has to create more with them not having a true quote unquote point guard. I mean, Desumu is okay, but he's not seasoned enough to be able to deal with that Miami pressure and that defense. And Miami's returning home from a 4-game road trip. In that road trip, they won all 4. So they have been trending upwards. It's just a matter of, if Jimmy Butler's in the lineup consistently. If Jimmy Butler's in the lineup consistently, then I like this team because they feed off his energy, and Jimmy's gonna bring it every night. Like that's what he does. He's gonna bring it every single night. And once that energy gets, through all those guys, then everybody starts playing well. You see Tyler Hero start making jumpers. You see Bam start playing more confidence because he's more of a 2 and not a 1A, 1B type of player. So I like what Miami's doing. Maybe in the, I guess, moving forward, but I don't like them laying this much this soon. I need to see more. I need to see a bigger sample size than just 4 games to be like, okay, I like this Miami team. Maybe they'll get a little bit healthier in the future, and we'll make some money off of them. But right now, I mean, in this game, I would lean to them. But other than DeRozan player props, I wouldn't look at anything else.
Yeah, Chicago also here on my stat sheet here. They're not very good at defending the 3-point line. They allow 37.9%, which ranks number 29. They also give up about 13.4 makes per game, which ranks number 28. And they allow teams to jack up about 40.3 per game, which ranks well below league average as well. So I'd probably look at Tyler Hero props in this game. Scott, do you have anything as far as player props?
You mentioned Hero. I was looking for threes. I didn't see them up, but I know his point total's at 20.5. I'd look to the over there.
Yeah.
I wanted to make a case for like Butler double-double or something kind of exotic, but I don't know how many minutes he's going to play because he's in and out of the lineup all the time.
Mm-hmm.
I like DeRozan too. I like that last night at 24.5. I know it's gone up a lot, but I mean, once again, if Goran Dragic, I know that he's a role player, but he's a veteran. If he's calling out your team for being selfish, it means your team not only has on the court issues, but it means you're also not having the greatest chemistry as a whole. So I think Chicago's a pure fade at this point.
Yeah, just got news. Kyle Lowry and Caleb Martin have both been listed out for tonight. For
Do you look for Hero assists then or Butler assists? Because somebody's got to handle the ball.
Yeah, I would probably go Jimmy Butler if he's probable tonight. So I'm looking at him because I know I was on him when they played the Rockets. I think we were on the triple-double in that game, or I was at least, and he ended up with 7 assists in that game. He had 4 the other night against the Spurs in a victory, 5, 4, and 8. So just depending on where the number comes out, it'll be interesting to see. Maybe a points and assists combined.
Yeah, look at Bam, points, rebounds, and assists as well. Whenever Lowry's out of the game, he does more of the facilitating for Jimmy while Jimmy runs off the screens and post up on. So they'll run a lot of screen and roll with Jimmy and Bam, and that's pretty effective. And the dribble handoff with Hero, Bam and Hero got a great connection. So I will look at Bam points, rebounds, and assists. I know it's not out yet simply because we're waiting on some of those guys to get ruled in and out, but I would look at that if it's not too crazy. Now, if it's like 32 or 33, I wouldn't. Anything in the low or mid to high 20s, I would go over that.
All right. Anything else for this game, guys?
I think that's all I have.
Yep, that's all I got.
All right. Let's get over to the next game of the night. It's going to be the Washington Wizards had to take on the Phoenix Suns in this game. Looking at the opening lines for this matchup, I am seeing the Phoenix Suns open up as a 7.5-point favorite. That number has been bet down to -7. Total open up at 226. That number is up to 228.5. Starting to see some 229s pop up as well. Looking at the injury report for both of these teams, let's start here with the Washington Wizards. Rui Hachimura continues to be out. Delonte Wright, we know, is out as well. Johnny Davis also out. He's on G League assignment. Other than that, pretty healthy squad. For the Phoenix Suns, they are in a back-to-back situations. My guess would be that Chris Paul probably sits in this game. And probably do get Devin Booker here tonight. I know he was questionable yesterday, but maybe them being on a back-to-back here tonight, and LeBron, AD, and Westbrook not playing, they probably didn't need him, and they did need him. So maybe he's a go here tonight against the Wizards. But again, definitely keep an eye out for the big three for the Phoenix Suns. Delonte, let me start with you on this game. The Phoenix Suns hosting the Washington Wizards as a 7-point home favorite.
Yeah, much like Scott was saying with Chicago, I think it's pretty much time to get rid of everybody in Washington as well. 2-8 ATS last 10, 0-5 straight up, and 1-4 ATS the last 5, all as an underdog. They don't do anything well, to be honest with you. So I want nothing to do with Washington. Phoenix has been playing a lot better, 3-0 ATS and straight up the last 3. While they're still 4-6 ATS and in the last 10. It's kind of tricky with the lineup with Phoenix, so I'm not sure what to expect. Like you were saying, I would assume that CP3 would be sitting and Booker would be in, but 3 of the next 4 games they get Memphis in 2 and the Nuggets. So maybe they sit Booker and get him ready for that stretch, or I'm not sure how they play it, but either way, it would be Phoenix or pass for me. Honestly, I don't have much on this game. I mean, Washington's terrible. Washington may be the worst team in the league, and that's saying something. Like they got a lot of decent players, but they just can't put it together for whatever reason. I don't know what it is. Bill has came back, and I mean, Bill is what he is. He's going to score, but he's not going to do much else other than that's going to contribute to winning basketball games, which is the main reason why nobody wanted to go out and trade for him or pay him that money, other than Washington. So I would lean to Phoenix, especially if Booker is in and CP3 is out. So yeah, I don't have. I'm sorry, I don't have much on this game. I would look to fade Washington as much as I could, but I just don't want to do it with Phoenix in this spot, with that 3-game stretch they got coming up.
Scott, what do you got for this game?
For me, it's all about the injury report. I feel like you need 2 of the 3 to play, either Chris Paul, Ayton, or Booker. You give me 2 out of 3, I'll lay it with Phoenix because they are missing some bench pieces. So I do think they kind of need some of the starters to actually play in this game. It's a back-to-back, but they killed the Lakers. They got to bench most of their key guys in the fourth quarter. I'm on Phoenix. Washington can't guard anybody. You can argue Phoenix team total might be good anyway because Washington's really not guarding anybody. But Beal's back now. Porzingis is still there. I just think that Washington can score. They can't do anything else, but I'm going to go with Phoenix. I am going to lean to the over. I think you could see a decent amount of points in this game. Phoenix could score 125. I don't think any of us would be surprised. Washington might score some because Beal is actually playing again and Porzingis can shoot. So I'll lean over, but Phoenix at home is really just insane. I'll go with Phoenix.
Yeah, Phoenix for me in this game as well. Scotty took the words right out of my mouth. If we have at least 2 of the 3 guys going here tonight, I will definitely be all over Phoenix. And I think that they'll be able to get whatever they want offensively. Defensively, this team has been okay over the past 5 games, have been the Washington Wizards. But this Phoenix Suns team is just a different animal at home so far this year. And over the course of since CP3 got to the Phoenix Suns, this team has just been an absolute monster as he's covering the spread in that span. Player props in this game. I don't think we'll see anything listed right now for the Phoenix Suns, but anything, guys, you were looking at for the Washington Wizards side? Delonte, I'll start with you.
Will Barton threes made. He's getting 4. He's made 4+ in 3 of the last 5. He's going to get a lot of opportunity. And I mean, if they're in fringe blowout, he'll play a lot more minutes. One of my favorite ones of the night is Mikal Bridges. Usually, they don't have him out right now, but they usually line him at around between 17.5 and 18.5, depending on who's in the lineup. So I would play those numbers. I would play 17.5, 18 and 18.5 over. Now, if it gets up to 19.5, I wouldn't play it at all. But he's went over in every game well, not over, but he's been over his threes made in every game in December but one. And he's went over 18.5 points in 3 of the last 5. And in one of those games, he had 18. So he's going to get more opportunities simply because if Booker's not playing or CP3 is not playing, the shot attempts have to go somewhere. They're not going to be pounding the ball in the 8, and most of the time they're going to be running and gunning with Washington. And one thing that Mikal Bridges does well is he shoots the corner 3 at a high level. He's inside the top 90 from corner 3 percentage. And the Wizards allowed, they are 23rd in corner 3-point percentage allowed and 27th in 3-point percentage allowed overall. So I think Mikal Bridges will find himself in the corner, shooting a lot of threes. Like I said, he's 42% on corner threes this year, and he's 47% on corner threes this year, and 40% from 3 overall. So I think he'll find himself in for a big night tonight. So I'll look at Mikal Bridges over 18.5 points and 2.5 threes made.
All right. Scotty, got any player props you like in this game?
Chris Paul, if he's going to end up playing. I know I was kind of wrong about his breakout yesterday. I thought he'd have a lot of assists. I didn't think he'd score 28 points. I think based on how bad Washington is defensively, Paul could really walk into like 13 and 13 here. I still like the over on Paul assists. I'll go for a double-double, but there's no props up yet, so I have to wait.
All right. Let's get over to the last game of the night, probably the game of the night here, guys. It's going to be the Memphis Grizzlies in the Mile High City to take on the Denver Nuggets. Looking at the opening line for this game, this line opened up in favor of the Denver Nuggets at -2, and that line has actually flipped now to Memphis being favored here by -1.5. Total opened about 233. That number's been bet up to 235.5. Starting to see some 236.5s out there as well. Currently over on WinBet, it is at 235.5. Looking at the injury report for both of these teams, start here with the road team, the Memphis Grizzlies. Desmond Bane, Danny Green, and Kenneth Lofton Jr. are all out for this game. For the Denver Nuggets, start with the questionable tags. KCP, questionable. Jeff Green, questionable. And Jamal Murray, questionable. Michael Porter Jr. is doubtful. And Nikola Jokic is probable here tonight against this Memphis team. Scott, let me start with you on this game. Memphis favored by 1.5 in the Mile High City, taking on the Denver Nuggets. What do you like about this game?
I'm on Memphis. I saw it on the overnight, and I thought Memphis in general is the better team when both teams are healthy. Now Denver's not healthy, so I can't take the Nuggets. I know they're at home. I know there's altitude. I get all that. But you're looking at no potential Jamal Murray. I know Murray hasn't been great this season, but at least he can create his own shot. Yeah. Caldwell Pope's been a very good three-point shooter, so I think his absence would be noticeable. But I'm looking at Denver's overall depth, and I'm not a big fan. I know that Bones Highland's a really good bench player when it comes to scoring, but you're looking at the rest of their bench. Do you really like many other options that they have? Like, I feel like their bench is mediocre at best. Memphis can just throw in a slew of guys, and they all are pretty good. I think Memphis is one of the best, if not the best, benches in the league, probably behind the Clippers, and you can make an argument that they're also going to be behind, like, New Orleans. But I think Memphis's bench is top 5, like, no questions asked. I think that you're looking at Ja, who should get whatever he wants because the Nuggets have no rim protection. You're looking at Memphis's depth and the fact that they are relatively healthy. I know Bane's still out, but he's been out for a couple weeks or a month at this point.
Yeah,
I'm on Memphis. I think Denver's missing too many supporting cast guys. Jokic might go nuts, but so can Morant. So I think there'll kind of be some balancing out there. Give me Memphis. I think the supporting cast is really where these teams separate themselves. Give me Memphis by like 6.
Delonte, what do you got for the side?
Yeah, I think both teams are somewhat in the same tier when healthy. Maybe Memphis, it probably can be debated if Memphis is a little better than Denver or vice versa. I mean, I
think Memphis is a little bit better, but it's close.
Simply because, I mean, like you said, you pointed out with the bench, like Denver doesn't have a deep bench, and Memphis has, 9, 10, 11 guys they can throw at you on any given night, and they all play at that same level. So there's no drop off between like 7 and 9. If you depending on, who you rank as those players, but Memphis 7-2-1 ATS last 10. They do struggle on the road. ATS, however, 3-10-1 on the road this season. Denver's 3-7 ATS last 10. They have won 4 of the last 5 straight up, but as we discussed, they're a bit banged up right now. They don't play defense really well. Transition, they're 29th in points per 100 possession in transition. They're 30th in opponent rim percentage, meaning they don't defend the paint well, as Scott brought up. 28th in points allowed per 100 possessions. So all this bodes well for Ja to be able to get downhill and get in transition and go nuclear. So I'm looking at a lot of Ja props. One thing that it's not readily available, so you can't really give it out, but free throws made is something that I've been on with Ja in these type of situations. In the big game, it's the last game of the night. He's going to look to get to the line. No rim protection. There's going to be a lot of fouls. Nobody can stay in front of him, especially with KCP being questionable. He's the only perimeter defender that I pretty much respect on the
I'm
team.
trying to think of who would even guard him.
Yeah, I have no idea. I mean, Murray's not going to guard him.
Yeah.
So I don't know. Yeah, I don't know what they do. That's one of the
You
reasons
throw
why.
Bruce Brown on him and you just hope that he can stick.
Yeah, I mean, maybe, but then if he gets in foul trouble, because Ja's going to get to the line.
There's no right answer. I'm just
Yeah.
trying to think of who would get the primary matchup on Ja. But
yeah, so I mean,
Brown?
maybe. So yeah, I like Memphis. I like Memphis here a little bit, but something that's kind of throwing me off is the fact that Denver, if they get hot from 3, and Memphis, they don't shoot the 3 as well as some of the numbers indicate. I think that some of those numbers are a bit, watered down because of blowouts and bench players coming in
and Bane was their best 3-point shooter.
Yeah, and he's out, so that kind of it's kind of watered down with the numbers. So I think Denver they're gonna come out motivated, but it's just hard to back them, being that you don't know who's gonna play. So if Murray's out and KCP's out, it's kind of hard to handicap the game. But all in all, I would probably just stay away. Both teams are incredible in the first quarter, so I would look at a first quarter over. Both teams are top 5 in first quarter scoring. So if that number's, it should be maybe like 59, 58, if I'm not mistaken. I didn't see it earlier when I looked. I don't know if you guys can help me out with that.
That's usually what it would be if the total's in the mid 230s.
Sure, I got it.
Yeah, so I can see
58.5.
Yeah, I like that over. I think I could see 60 plus in both from both teams. Denver and Memphis both start out hot. They're top 4 in first quarter margin. So it's going to be interesting. I think it's a fairly even game. I kind of agree with the money shifting to Memphis simply because of injury concern. And in Memphis, another advantage they do have is they're first in points per game in the paint. And as we went over, Denver doesn't defend the paint well.
Yeah.
So I would pass this game if I had to play it. I would probably just play Denver just off strictly upside of those guys getting ruled in, and you're getting a little bit of value with them.
Yeah, I'm going to go with Memphis here tonight myself. I think the difference is going to be John Moran in this game and his ability just to get to the rim, because what you just said there, Delonte, that Denver doesn't do a very good job of defending the paint. They are number 21, allowing 51.2 points per game inside the paint, where Memphis is number 1 in the league and scoring points inside the paint. And if they're able to play good defense as far as defending the 3-point line, I think Memphis should be able to win this game by a couple possessions here. So I'm going to go with Memphis here tonight. One of my favorite props was actually John Morant here tonight. His number is currently sitting at, I believe it was 28.5 as far as his points.
That's what I saw
tonight.
last night. I'm not sure if it went up or not.
Yeah, 28.5 minus 125 here tonight against the Memphis Grizzlies. And again, you guys already talked about it. I think that he should have an easy time getting to the basket in this game and getting to the free throw line as well. So I like the Memphis side here. Any player props you're looking at here in this game, Scott?
Yeah, I am looking at Steven Adams under his current prop of 8.5. Number sounds low, but historically against Denver, he's been really bad at scoring. And we know it doesn't exactly attempt many shots in general. But to go through his last couple games against Denver, these are the point totals: 2, 4, 8, 6, 2, 8, 4. So he's gone under this number in each of the last 7 games. He might get into foul trouble guarding Jokic. We know that Memphis might want to play faster and try to run Jokic off the court, which I think is actually a decent strategy there. So you might see a little bit more of Clark, maybe even some Jaren Jackson at the 5 lineups. But Steven Adams at 8.5, I think his weight is a little bit too high when he's gone under this number in 7 straight against Denver. I'll take the under.
All right. Delonte, any player props?
Other than Ja, I don't really have much simply because I don't. It wasn't a lot available for Denver, in this game because of the injury concerns. I would look at. I like that under by Scott with Adams. Um, yeah, I just don't have much. Like Ja is one of my favorite ones over simply because matchup wise, it's like a home run spot, and in prime time, we all know Ja is gonna show up and show out. So other than Ja going over, I don't really have much with it. I mean, Joker's props are going to be through the roof, and he'll probably just go over just because he's that good. But there's no value on him right now. So I would just look at Ja over. I love Ja over. I didn't mean to take his steam on that, so sorry about that.
No, you're good. Yeah, that is pretty much anything else you guys give for this game?
Not
No,
much.
not really.
No.
No.
All right. Before we get into our lock and dog for this Tuesday night schedule, let me tell you guys about Dave. And look, we're at the time of the year where we're in the holiday season and we may be coming up a little bit short for gifts, or there's just some expenses that we need to take care of before the year ends, whether it's catching up on bills or you have a car breakdown, whatever the case might be. That's what Dave is here to help. And with the holidays here, you might be wondering how you're going to be able to make ends meet and shower your loved ones with gifts. Dave can help you get that and get you out of the pinch and just enjoy the holiday season. If you're living paycheck to paycheck or just struggling to make ends meet, the holidays may be a really stressful time. But Dave, you can get your money sooner, so you can get more time enjoying the holidays with your loved ones and not having to worry about much money you have to get through the week. Dave is a banking app that could help you get up to $500 instantly with extra cash. With Dave, there's no interest, no late fees, no credit checks. There's more money to buy those last minute gifts or simply just catch up on bills without having to wait for your next paycheck. You can finally tackle those expenses that you've been stressing out about without any hangups. Millions of people have already downloaded the Dave app to get financial relief they need with extra cash. So if you're in a pinch and you need some extra help, download Dave and think of it as a helping hand from the future you. Download the Dave app from the App Store right now or go to dave.com/SGPN and sign up for an extra cash account and get up to $500 instantly. For terms and conditions, go to dave.com/legal. Instant transfer fees apply. Banking services provided by Evolve Bank and Trust. Member FDIC. All right, gentlemen, let's get into our lock and dog for the Tuesday schedule, 5-game schedule here in the NBA. Scott, why don't you lead us off, my man? You're coming off the sweep. What's your lock and dog for tonight?
So even though we have 5 games on the card, I'm actually looking at 2 plays from the same game for my lock and dog. My lock's going to be Memphis minus the 1.5, or you take the money line at like minus 125, whatever you want to take. But I really think Memphis is a bad matchup for Denver. Denver, we talked about how bad they are at defending the paint. They're also going to be a bit shorthanded because they are going to be potentially missing Jamal Murray and Caldwell Pope, and they might get into a bunch of foul trouble trying to stay in front of Ja. But Memphis, I think, has a very good overall supporting cast. Denver, I can't say the same about. And I think Memphis is going to be annoyed. Ja got ejected last game questionably. They lost on the road to OKC. I think they might enter this game with a bit of a chip on their shoulder. So I'll go with Memphis on the money line or minus 1.5. I think they win this game by at least 5.
All right. And what do you got for your dog?
So I'm going to stick with the same game. I'm going to take John Morant, 35 plus points at plus 270. I think it's a great price. Looking at the last meeting against Denver, he had 38 points back in January of last year, but it's mostly based on the lack of rim protection. I know that we talked before briefly if you could find free throw props. I don't think I've ever been able to find that, but if you can, John might go to the line 15 times. It would really not surprise me, but he's going to get downhill. You know that Denver can't do anything against him, and I think Josh should really have a great opportunity to cook in this game. It's also a national TV game. We've seen Ja kind of show out in these games before in front of a mass, market. I think Ja could go for 40 tonight, but I think 35 at plus 270 against a team that has no guards that can stay in front of them and that has no rim protection. It's really a match made in heaven. I'll go with Ja, 35 plus points at plus 270.
All right, love it. So recap Scott's pick. He's taking Memphis. Take your pick, whether that's the spread or the money line here tonight. And then his dog is going to be John Morant to score at least 35 points at plus 270 against the Denver Nuggets. Delonte, lock and dog, my man. What do you got?
Starting off with the lock, I'm gonna go with the first game on the board. First game we discussed. I'm going to Utah Jazz minus 2.5 against Detroit.
You're not taking the Knicks? Come on, man.
Man, listen, listen. I don't want to do that to my man Real. Every time I bet on the Knicks, I'm wrong. So I don't want to bet on them and they lose it. And he's coming up here with you tomorrow and he's throwing his hat or whatever.
There's no sympathy for Terrell right now because he's enjoying himself on a cruise.
I was going to say, if it
now.
makes you feel any better, I don't think Terrell's going to be on the show tomorrow.
Oh,
So
okay.
You
I didn't
might
know.
buy yourself some time.
Yeah. Okay, cool. So yeah, but I'll go with the Jazz right now. Bounce back spot for them. Revenge angle. All those things are in play with this team. I think that they come out and score. They might go for 130, 135 against this Detroit defense. So I like Utah to bounce back in this spot. For my dog, I seen that Julius Randle double is back at plus money, so it's back at plus 105. So I'll take that as my dog. I think Julius Randle has a monster night tonight. So that that'll balance out the Knicks play for you, Scott.
All right, so recap Delonte's pick. He is going with the Utah Jazz minus 2.5 as his lock. And then for his dog, we've got Julius Randle double at a plus money price here against the Golden State Warriors. All right, guys, for my lock, I'm going to go with the player prop here. Jalen Duren over 10.5 rebounds. Really like that's the first play I made this morning when I saw that. We talked about it, how great he's been rebounding the basketball. It's just a matter of him getting the minutes, and he's been getting that for the Detroit Pistons at that center position. Over the last 5 games, he's averaging 13.8 rebounds. He's averaging close to 30 minutes per game in that span as well. And he's gone over this projection of 10.5 in, let's say, 6 straight games, is it? Yeah. For the Detroit Pistons. So Jalen Duren over 10.5 rebounds as my lock here for tonight. For my dog, not a lot of dogs that I do like here tonight.
I think I hated basically every team that was an underdog tonight.
Yeah, I did too. Like I just it was just no value for. I mean, the only thing I would I would go with would be Denver. I mean, simply just off of sheer. I don't like anything else, but I mean, Denver is probably the most, I guess.
I went the player prop route.
Whatever. Yeah, that's exactly what I did. I didn't see much value in it.
Let me find an alt line on the Detroit Pistons.
You guys see the Miami game is getting somebody's pounded in
Chicago.
Yeah. So I don't know what the hell is going on.
But it hasn't dropped enough where you automatically assume Jimmy's not playing. Because if there were rumors about that, it would have dropped to 2 by now.
Yeah.
So,
but if it does, I'm gonna wait and see how low it gets, and I'll just bet Miami.
Oh, that's the point. So I'm saying there's clearly information or something, but it hasn't dropped enough where I'm assuming the star players for Miami's not going to play.
Yeah.
For my dog, let's go Jazz minus 4.5 at plus 115. You can find that over on WinBet right now. I think this is a good smash spot, especially for the offensive bounce back here tonight against a Pistons defense that has not been doing very well this season or even over the course of the last 10 games. And for whatever reason, they play better defense on the road and they just do not show up at home. And also, we pointed out that they are in a revenge spot here when Detroit came into their building and beat them. And now Utah going into the Motor City there in Detroit and looking to avenge that spot against the Detroit Pistons. So minus 4.5 plus 115 for my dog here tonight. You guys were talking about the Bulls game there. I'm probably that moved like half a point because Kyle Lowry was ruled out with Caleb Martin, but it's down to -4 is what I see.
Yeah, I see a couple 3.5s. I mean, not many, but I see a couple. So I think it's kind of trending that way. I don't know what's going on. Like, I mean, Kyle Lowry. I mean, he ain't moving the needle that much.
Yeah,
I don't think he should.
Yeah. So I mean, and the way the Bulls have been playing, I don't know who the hell was bet. Maybe Jordan's got some money on this game. Who knows?
I'll guess Barkley.
There we go.
Yeah.
There we go.
All right, if Barkley's on it, then I'm going with my.
That's what I'm saying.
All right, guys. That's going to do it for this edition of the NBA Gambling Podcast for this Tuesday night schedule. Delonte, anything else you want to get off your chest, my man, before we get out of here?
Nah, man, good show from you guys. Look forward to cashing with our plays. I got an article, a best bet article for player props coming in a few. If you guys want to check that out, it'll be up in a second. Other than that, man, good luck to everybody. Get the best number. Hey, let's break them off.
Yep. Scott, anything else before we get out of here?
Yeah, apologies. I didn't take another plus 850 super dog, but settle for the Morant plus 270, and we'll see what happens.
Stay tuned for tomorrow. Maybe Scott can dig one up as well because Hornets are on the schedule tomorrow.
Who are they playing?
Clippers.
Oh,
If Zubac is in, I know
God.
he's been out.
Yeah, okay. Yeah. Zubac might have another 20-something piece if he's back. Okay.
Yeah. So
look at Plumlee in that game too.
Yeah, tune in tomorrow for that show. All right, make sure to follow the NBA Gambling Podcast account on Twitter at SGPNNBA. Follow Scott on Twitter at Reichel Radio. Make sure to follow Delonte as well at XXLONTEXXXLante on Twitter. Make sure to follow me on Twitter at SportsNerd824. If you haven't already, make sure to subscribe to the YouTube channel for the NBA Gambling Podcast. And of course, leave us a rating review for the NBA Gambling Podcast as well. All right, we'll be back tomorrow. Good luck with your bets here tonight. Let's break these books off and let it ride.